The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Kolar Arms, America's competition shotgun, and is fueled by Fiocchi.
Welcome to the Dead Pair Podcast, coming in hot with everything you want to hear about sporting clays. With your hosts, Jason Rambo.
This is what I have to work with, everyone.
And Sean Alley.
Like I said, I was just thirsty.
Oh, boy.
Often imitated, but never duplicated. It's the Dead Pair Podcast. It's showtime.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to 2026 with the Dead Pair Podcast. And I have with me guest host Tracey Wright. What's up, Trace?
Not a whole lot. I'm excited. 2026, rolling into a good year.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I'm looking forward to this. I'm very excited about it. How was your holidays?
It was good. It was relaxing.
Yeah.
That was it's kind of a change of pace for the norm. So it was a good one. What about you?
Yeah, good. Kind of low key at home. You know, had some family over and stuff. It was really good. Which I'm all about the low key nowadays. So
Me too. Me too.
But, well, hey, listen, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank our sponsors that came back with us this year. Kolar Arms, Fiocchi USA, Ranger Performance Eyewear, Atlas Traps, Rhino Trokes, Gun and Trophy Insurance, Long Range, Taconic Distilleries, Score Chaser, and coming back with us for the 2026 season is Bear Pelt and Odo Pro. Thank you to those ladies for coming back with us. And also new to the podcast this year, El Jefe Energy Drink and Slick Products. We're going to be talking a lot about them in the near future. Their links are right down in the show description. So lots of good stuff coming. Hey, I do want to mention real quick too, one thing we're going to try this year, we're going to start doing some product reviews, product highlights. And it's not just from my sponsors, but I've got a lot of people that have sent me products that we're going to do little video clips on them. So be looking for that. Get over to our YouTube channel. So Dead Pair Podcast, and be looking for that. Probably going to try and do one about every week to 10 days. We're going to do one. So be looking at that. Tracey, I hate to do this to you, buddy, but we've got a big tourney talk we got to get through real quick.
Sounds good.
It's Tourney Talk. Brought to you by Score Chaser.
All right. First off, Texas State FETASC at Dallas Gun Club, May 29th through the 31st. The Western Challenge at Gallatin Sporting Clays, August 27th through 30th. Montana State Championship at Blue Creek, July 30th through August 2nd. Louisiana State at Covey Rise, May 21st through the 24th. Wyoming State at Casper Skeet and Sporting Clays, June 25th through 28th. The 2026 Washington State at Rock Lake Sporting Clays, June 25th through the 28th. The 2026 Ohio State Championship at Hillendale, July 30th through August 2nd, and the 2026 Maryland State Championship at Hopkins Game Farm, September 19th through the 20th. Those are all up on Score Chaser. They're all live now, so get in there and get registered. Tracey, I know you're looking forward to that Washington State Championship, aren't you?
Definitely. It's a new club for us, so it'll be good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
His first time throwing a state shoot, and I think he's going to do a great job.
Very cool. Of course, you guys know me. I'm looking forward to the Ohio State Championship in August.
Definitely a lot to look forward to. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but all of these really, I mean, Montana State, Louisiana State, Wyoming. I mean, all these state championships have opened up, and it's going to be a fun year for state championships in 2026.
Yeah.
So,
that Gallatin shoot in Montana, that's a super good shoot. Really well done.
Really. Chad's been bugging me to get out there. And one of these days, I'm going to pull the trigger and get out there.
I think you got to do it, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Trace, this is the start of a 2-part series for questions for the coaches. We had so many of them come in. We put them all together in 2 episodes. Just so everybody knows, Sean will be back with me next week for part 2. Tracey was kind enough to sit in with us this week. And Trace, we love having you. Very excited to have you on with us. Here in a little bit, we're going to be getting Mr. Big-Headed himself, David Radulovich, is coming on. Believe that. And Cory Kruse is going to be joining us. And he's got some other stuff he wants to talk about in addition to the questions for the coaches. But how about you, Tracey? Before we get started on this, have you been shooting a lot, man? Been practicing, training over the winter break, or are you snowed in?
To be honest, I've been fighting some injuries lately. So I got a pretty substantial back injury, and I finally got that under control. And now I'm messing with a pretty roughed up rotator cuff. So,
oh, geez.
Just hitting the gym too hard and trying to take it easy on stuff right now. I haven't trained upper body, or at least chest and shoulders. Still doing back for a little while, but starting to get on the mend. So can't move the gun very well to the second bird right now.
Tracey, the shotgun's only 10 pounds, not 110 pounds. You gotta take it easy
when your rotator cuff's not cooperating.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You gotta take it easy there in the gym, man.
Yeah.
So no, I get it though, man. You get in there, you get training, and you get all excited, and let's put another plate on. And next thing you know, you're dragging your arm behind you on the way out the gym door.
Well, as soon as I turned 50, everything started falling apart. Literally, needed glasses, rotator cuff, back, everything. So I do things differently now.
Well, I must be ahead of the game because everything started falling apart on me at 40. So, but well, hey, listen, we got some cool questions sent in to us, and just so everybody knows how this format's going to work is we had a little over like 13 questions sent in, and we're going to do 12 of them. We've picked 2 questions for each coach, and we're going to have 3 coaches per episode. Tracey's the first of the 3 in this one. Let me get these up here for you, Trace. All right. So the first question, Drew wrote to us and says, I'm a budget-minded shooter. I can only afford to shoot 50 to 100 rounds a week. I shoot pretty consistent 78%, and I would like to improve to mid to low 80%. What would you recommend that I focus my practices on?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and it suits me rather well, to be honest with you. So I, too, kind of had to watch the budget, especially when I started. I started when I was fairly young, but I was paying my way. I think a lot can take place, and you can get a lot of value out of just handling the gun when you're at home. Whether you shoot pre-mounted or you shoot a dismounted gun, I think doing gun mounts at home is really, really important. I still mount the gun almost every night. I haven't a whole lot lately because of the shoulder, but usually I'd get home, I'd pull the gun out. If I'm watching TV or working or whatever I'm doing, I'll do a couple of gun mounts every so often and try and get in. Some on a good night, I'll get as many as 100 gun mounts in. Typically, I try to run about 20 to 40 and I go really slow and controlled. Vincent Hancock put out a video a while back on slow motion gun mounts. You could probably look it up on YouTube or whatnot, but super, super cool video. But you can really develop some strong muscle memory by doing that. But the more you handle the gun, the better. The other thing is, I think you have to be very planful when you go out. So there's going to be times where you're going to shoot a full round, and you're just going to be practicing like process, pre-shot routine, things like that. But I think practicing a whole lot of singles and breaking down, I have a practice routine, based off a journal. Basically, it's how I document how each practice session goes. And for instance, let's say I'm focusing on method. So if I'm focused on my pull away, I'll document how well I did my pull away, how well I controlled the target before I started to slowly push out, my gun speed in relation to target speed, how well did I honor my insertion points, my predetermined insertion point to the target, my target transitions, swing through, gun mount. So I just break it down into kind of these little headings. And based off my logbook, that's kind of how I allocate my practice. So if I've got 100 rounds, I might tell myself that I'm going to do 40% of my practice is going to be pull away, 10% of my practice is going to be swing through, or I might say it's going to have a lot to do with insertion point. How well am I inserting to a specific point on the target? How well am I controlling it or connecting with it? But I think one of the biggest factors is you've got to get really, really regimented when you've only got so much to work with. And that's how I did it when I was coming up. I used to, I had a friend, his name was Nathan Packish, and he was a really, really accomplished shooter. I think he was a junior All-American, but he went to college at Washington State University in he used to drive up and stay with me on weekends, and we would go practice. But he had very limited time being in college. He was on a college kid budget, we'll say.
Yeah.
But he did so much practice and homework at home, and he got so much done with it, and was a tremendously accomplished shooter, really consistent, moved the gun perfectly, very, very disciplined. And it always inspired me to kind of do a lot more homework. And it showed me how valuable it was.
I mean, basically, as a summary, it's quality over quantity, right? I mean, you're making every shot count and putting every bit of effort you can into each target, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't just go burn rounds and play games. It's got to be very focused. And to this day, I'm really focused about my training. Even though I definitely get to shoot more than I used to, it's still pretty limited, and I don't get to shoot as many tournaments as I'd like because I'm still, working a 9 to 5. So it's really got to matter. So when I go out and train, it's the same thing. I've got percentages that I allocate to different focal points.
Awesome, Trace. Well, we have David Demaria from Australia writes, how do you not put so much pressure on yourself? Say you shoot a 25-24, comes to the last round shooting, and you know you're in a good spot for the competition, and you start thinking you could win, and you just put too much pressure on yourself. You try to make sure of the shot all the time, and you blow it. How do you stay in the present and not in the future? Boy, this is a good question for me, too.
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's something that we all have to deal with. And I think that we've all been in David's position. I certainly know that I have. And it was one of the things that encouraged me to be a lot more process-based in my shooting. I think that the process is really still the key to consistency. I think any time you want consistent outcomes, a process is going to help you get there. I think, even with that being said, one of the most important things is you've got to be in the arena, so you can practice the processes and develop, as much of a rock solid system as possible. But I think you've always got to put yourself in that position. So the more you can compete, the better. I think you've really got to put yourself in that position. But I think ultimately, a process is something that you formulate outside the stand or outside the box. And he's talking about, shooting 25s and 24s. So I don't know if, this is sporting clays, skeet, maybe FITASC or whatever it may be, but they're fairly consistent across the board in terms of how you develop that. You pre-program when you're outside the box, and then there really needs to be kind of an execution phase. And for me, I think the big key to that is learning how do you look at targets and being able to do that all the time. I can tell you, as I developed in sporting clays, I can almost tell you the course, the day, the station, exactly when I learned to look at a target correctly. And I felt like I knew that I could be more consistent, So really, for instance, I talk about an active listen before I call pull. And that's it's a grounding technique, something to put my brain at the optimum speed for shooting, basically. I don't want to be moving too quickly because that kind of resembles anxiety. If I'm moving too slow, I'm going to be out of time with the target. I have to be in this optimum speed to react appropriately. And so active listening helps ground me, and it helps me do that. But if I can't hear the wind or whatever I'm listening for, I have to look for it. So if I can pair it with something visually, I can really strengthen my connection and find it quicker. So I really am looking for speed on the target, and I'm looking so hard for speed, I want to feel it. And to me, it's the perfect way to connect with each individual target for consistency. I can do it with a trap target. I can do it with a teal. Crossers give you a lot of feedback. They give you a lot of feedback very quickly. But ultimately, I think you've got to pre-program with your process. You got to have your pre-shot routine there for your execution phase. But you've really got to lean on that visual piece to keep you in the moment. And, you start thinking about outcomes, that's a normal that's normal for people to do. And I think that if you fight it, that sometimes that's going to create more issues. But if you stop, you let yourself go there for a minute, go ahead, think about it. Answer the question, what happens if you win? Honestly, I mean, I've won enough stuff to where not a lot happens. You just kind of look forward to the next shoot and you go from there. But I think go there for a minute and then get back and focus on what you got to do. Because ultimately it's all about being in the moment and enjoying that moment. And you can reinforce that in a journal or a diary that you're going to focus more on the moment than the outcome. And you can reinforce that.
You know, it's funny because when I listen to a lot of you top level shooters, you all, in a sense, kind of reiterate the same thing. It's like when that pressure comes on, you need to recognize it. Like, okay, I know you're, at the back of my skull yelling at me. I know where I'm at. Now shut up and we're going to get busy here with our process. And it's so easy to say, but it is hard to execute. I mean, I've done it way earlier than I should have. And I don't mean like on the last 2 or 3 stations. I mean like halfway through and it's like, man, I am just smoking here. I'm rolling. This is going to, and then it just starts falling apart. I mean, knowing your score through your round is something that that is a bad fault of mine. And I can't seem to shut it off. And I've had a lot of people tell me, just recognize it.
Yeah. I think okay. You got to be okay with it. I mean, it's hard not to know you're down 2, it's hard to know, that you're only down 3. I've heard Brandon, I think he was on your podcast and he said he knew the number and he'd want to go shoot it. He knew what the guy shot the AM rotation. He was going to go out and shoot it in the PM. And the guy's kind of, he's good enough to go out there and do it. But I think the big factor is if you didn't have that desire, if you didn't have that want to win, I just don't think you ever will. So, I mean, you've got to have that desire. You've got to learn how to harness it. I used to get really nervous about shoot-offs until I told myself and I convinced myself that I knew how to use that energy better than the next guy. And it worked. I convinced myself and I look forward to them. I love a shoot-off. And I just think you've got to really prepare yourself psychologically for it and be ready for it. And you really can. But it's the best place you can be. I've had a lot of shoot-offs where I felt like I made more progress than I did the entire shoot, just because of that pressure and how much I really had to let go and focus on the key principles that got you there. And that's looking at the bird,
Yeah. Well, and that's, if you join those 2 questions together, the last 2 questions we just had for you, one of the things that I've heard is guys betting each other when they're out practicing with their buddies, right? To try and simulate that pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. We had one question about practice. We had one question about dealing with the pressure.
Yeah.
And I forget which golfer it was said, winning the putt for whatever millions of dollars is not pressure. It's betting your buddy $50 and only having $5 in your pocket is more. But you know what? There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
And you can go out and practice with your buddies and put pressure on yourself. I mean, work on whatever you're going to work on that day, but maybe the last 50 targets, run it like a tournament and, bet your buddy $20 or, as they say in the new commercial for a Michelob Ultra or something. But
when I started, I used to go hit this, there was a shoot down in Southern Idaho that I used to go hit and it paid out $500 cash. This is like 25 years ago. It paid out $500 cash and then they paid out on top of that. But I used to drive down there without enough money to get home unless I won. And I won it every year. I won it 3 years straight. But, I think that pressure was just, I was going to end up staying on the club owner's couch for another couple of days if I didn't pull it off,
Yeah.
But, putting yourself in those positions, I think it's important to do it, I mean, let it tell you about yourself and see who you really are. But put the pressure on yourself, learn to love it. I mean, I feel the most alive when I'm shooting and when I'm going from stand to stand and I'm on a good score. That's better than any outcome I can think of, So I don't care if I win. I just like being there. That's the best thing yet.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. There's no greater feeling than winning, whether it's your class or HOA or whatever. You know, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, you beat the best at your level that day, right? And
Yeah.
it's a great feeling. But it does take a lot of work. I mean, all of it does.
Without a doubt.
Speaking of tournaments, one thing I forgot to mention, the Dead Pair Blasts, we're going to have 2 of them this year. One will be on the East Coast, one will be on the West. West Coast, Tracey, I hope you're going to join us for this one. We'll be at LA Clays, and that'll be, it's the weekend of Easter, April 3rd and 4th. It'll be a Friday and Saturday. So you won't be there on Easter Sunday, but lots of details coming up on that. We're going to have June Vergara from LA Clays. We're going to have him on along with Jake Spangler because the East Coast round, the East Coast round will be at Rocky Creek in Richburg, South Carolina, and that'll be in December, and I believe it's 11th and 12th. It's a 2-day event, but we've got lots of options for everybody, lots of different ways you can shoot the main event. You can shoot it all in one day. You could shoot it over 2 days. Plus, we're going to have super sporting and 5-stand, plus some side games. So lots of details coming on that. But just wanted to throw it out there. Let everybody know. Be looking forward on Score Chaser here in the very near future. We will have a podcast about it with June and Jake and cover all the details. So, Tracey, hoping you can make it out to that one, man. That one's right over, not too far from you.
I want to go to both.
You want to go to, well,
I want to go to both.
Come on. You're more than welcome.
Okay.
We'd love to have you.
I want to go to both clubs. Both clubs are cool clubs, and I'd love to get out there.
Yeah, we're going to do some fun stuff with payouts. We've already had some sponsors chip in to add to the money. So, and all the sponsors are going to provide something for the event. I mean, whether it's, a gift card to their products or the product itself or possibly cash towards a purse, everybody's doing something. So, really looking forward to that. Sounds like I talked to El Jefe Energy. Sounds like they're going to be present and accounted for the West Coast round at LA Clays, because that's where they're based out of, is California. So they're going to be there. We're looking at a lot of different things we're going to do for this shoot. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Who's setting the birds?
So on the West Coast, it'll be myself and Chad Roberts. East Coast, if Sean can make it, he's going to help me set targets, and or Chad Roberts as well. So
Cool.
It could be all 3 of us or 2 of us at the East Coast round, and Chad and I for the West Coast round. So it'll be a lot of fun.
We'll have to get Chad all riled up so he lets everybody have it. Let's see what he says, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he might eat your lunch on that one. So he can be brutal sometimes.
Yeah.
But,
don't shake him up too bad.
Yeah. I mean, the theme of it is, just like in the Dead Pair Blast we've done in the past, is keep it fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if we got a shoot off with 5 people in a class. I don't care. We're going to have fun.
Yeah.
But we are going to have, instead of doing shoot off, so I should have mentioned that, we are going to have separator stations, or tiebreaker stations, if you will. Kind of like if you've attended Jack Links, they've got the flags up that's a tiebreaker station.
Yeah.
We're going to have 2 or 3 tiebreaker stations,
cool.
But we'll cover all those details on an upcoming episode. But super excited about this year, man. There's just so much stuff. It's in the works. And of course, I want to talk about it all in the first episode, but this episode, with having 3 coaches on, is probably going to be long enough as it is. So we probably ought to get to Cory and David here pretty quick, but Tracey, before we get to them though, I really want to thank you for coming on and co-hosting this with me. I know we've talked about some ideas that you had. We're going to be visiting again on some upcoming episodes. You've got a doctor that you wanted to bring on. Excited to talk about that.
Yeah.
And what he's got to say. That's going to be a really in-depth episode. That's going to be good.
Definitely loaded. I know it's a pretty intense feeling, or filling Sean's shoes here. That is that's a big job. So
you got big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Now, I just talked to Sean over the weekend. He's doing good. In case anybody wants to know, he's spending some due time with his wife. But he's, holy cow, they're talking about a new building and stuff for work, and I mean, he's going nuts. So I can understand why he's not here.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, we still miss him, and he is going to be back next week. So everybody, hold on for that one. In the meantime, Tracey, let's get to Cory Kruse. He's waiting on us. So let's get him on the phone and see what he has to say.
Sounds good.
The Dead Pair.
All right. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Cory Kruse. How are you, Cory?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing good. Got Tracey sick. Tracey, quit being so quiet over there, man. Come on.
I'm doing good.
Hi, Tracey.
I'm with you.
Well, Cory, before we get started on your two questions for the coaches, you've got a lot going on, a lot more than usual. You have a new app. You've got all kinds of stuff, a new program you started. You want to tell everybody about that?
Yeah, man, it's really exciting. Been working on it for a really long time. It's been a dream and vision of me and my wife's for many moons, I guess you could say. So anyway, we developed an app, and the app is designed for pretty much every single shooter you could imagine, whether you're a beginner to master class. Everybody kind of overlooks a lot of the basic principles, has a lot of just very simple questions, and there's just not the right content. I'm a real visual learner, and just kind of wanted to make something that's applicable to everyone. We've got these things we call shot instructions, which are basically shot cam videos that I kind of do like a old school John Madden football play breakdown, where I can draw on the screen and kind of show you what I'm actually trying to verbalize, but you can have a visual to go along with it on what I'm doing with the gun, and in conjunction with the speed of the bird to the speed of the barrel. I can kind of hold your hand and walk you through all these different principles and fundamentals, the difference between all the different methods. And we've got some episodes up that cover gun fit, shooting with two eyes, matching the speed of the bird, and a lot more to come. And we're just really excited about it. So it's called the Sporting Collective. We're on the Apple App Store, the Google App Store, and on a website, sportingcollective.com. And we're really excited. We'd love to hear everyone's thoughts, because we want to continue getting better and just making more content for your average everyday shooter, all the way up to someone in the NSCA that's trying to climb up the ranks. We want to also have stuff for 4-H groups and tools for 4-H team coaches, SCTP, all the above. We just kind of want to move the ball forward for your overall shooter that's going to entice them to be out at the range more, and kind of make that learning curve more efficient. Especially in Texas, we have a big population of corporate events. And, just for me, what I've experienced is I've got a lot of customer base with my my main job in the oil field. And a lot of my customers are sometimes a little apprehensive to show up to a range and shoot these oil field tournaments or these charity tournaments, just because of stuff that they're not used to. Well, we've created an app or a program that they could verse up on everything from etiquette to gun fit to chokes to ammunition, gear, product reviews, you name it. So kind of just a Swiss Army knife of the shooting industry.
That is very cool, Cory. Now you're doing some online things where people can interact with you. Is that like on a weekly basis, or is that by like appointment, or how are you doing that?
No, so being a subscriber within the app, now we have a certain amount of content that's free, because obviously the sport's expensive, and we don't want to rule anybody out. So we have a certain amount that's free. Some of it's going to be on YouTube, so we have a YouTube channel as well, and everything kind of funnels you back to the app, just because everybody's always on their phones nowadays, and so you can watch it from your desktop. But because if you are a subscriber, you would be allowed access to the community page. And I kind of butted heads with my wife on this a lot, but I eventually came to my senses and took good advice where it was due, and realized the power of that community page. And it allows the subscribers to interact with me and each other, to where if they catch a cool product that someone needs to know about, ammo is for sale at this store for this price, whatever it might be, the community can interact with me and each other. If someone's struggling with a certain issue, they can post on the community page. I'll get back with them, or another guy within the community might be able to chime in, and you kind of get a little bit better version of attention than you would on your average Facebook forum or something like that.
Yeah.
So
that is cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Tracey, you're going to have to get your butt in gear and get you one of these apps.
I think it's going to be pretty exciting for coaches like myself who are always trying to get additional tools out to our students, especially those that we're working, with over a distance, and then we don't get to see them all that often. We seem to be lacking good material to refer them to, so that's going to be super helpful.
Yeah, and thank you, Trace, because that's a big part of it as well. I want someone to be able to have those prerequisites. So when they do show up for a lesson, or they need to know how to find a local instructor and the value of it. This isn't all about me or promoting my name or my lessons or anything. It's just the overall growth of the entire industry. On something that we do for subscribers in addition to that community page is every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. we do a live stream. It's an hour-long call. We'll take down one topic and then leave the other half of the hour for questions and answers. So I feel like it's a great value, and it's only $15 a month. So basically, for the price of a bougie box of shotgun shells or a bougie coffee at Starbucks, you get a lot of value for something you're interested in. Or it could even be a great gift for a friend for Christmas. You never know.
Very
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get on to our questions, because we've got a lot to get through. Gentleman says, I am a 55% shooter. He says, I'm using the shot cam to review what I'm doing, especially on my misses. The theme I have been seeing is that I'm missing high over the clay, maybe by one pattern. This is especially true on crossing and quartering clays. The odd thing is, when I'm shooting, my barrel awareness says that I'm below or right on the target. Any ideas as to what is causing this? My over-under is a CZ Redhead Premier target with light modified chokes. Thanks, Tad from Northern Virginia.
All right, Tad from Northern Virginia. It's a good question. And you said that you're a 55%-ish sporting shooter. So with that and the CZ Redhead Premier target over and under, I would suggest that you go directly to the pattern board, step back to about 25, 30 yards. Same thing with your light mod choke, and basically take a rifle shot at the dot on the pattern board and check your point of impact. What I would guess that I would find out, or that you would find out, is that your gun is shooting high, and so you're naturally not compensating for being on the actual target's line. If your shot cam is looking like you're maybe a pattern high, well, go test that on the pattern board. If that says that it's impacting where you expect it to, well, then maybe you're reading the line of the clay wrong, and you need to do what the terminology we use is float the bird a little bit, meaning kind of run the bottom of the line, because you may be missing that part of the line that's late in the flight path where it's dropping a little more than your brain suggests. If you're a 55% shooter, as you're growing and getting more experience in reading the target line, that will kind of fix itself. But I would say as well, just some other little tools that'll help you figure this out is pay close attention to what your barrel speed is doing in conjunction to what the target speed's doing. If you only have one little moment that the lead's right, well, your barrel speed is probably a little too fast from what the actual target speed's doing. So you have two speeds, barrel speed and target speed. They need to be synced up really close to each other so the barrel's not leaving or not collapsing on the target too fast. And that'll give you better vision of where your actual pattern is going on the shot cam. But I would start at the pattern board and double check your point of impact. I've got a little episode on my Sporting Collective app that it's basically titled How to Sight in Your Shotgun for Sporting Clays. It's about a 20-minute video for the full-length version that subscribers get. We also have a free version on YouTube that's a condensed version of it. It doesn't have all the meat and potatoes, but it's got enough for you to kind of see the process on checking your point of impact on that pattern board. That's going to tell you a lot. But from a rifle shooting or a deer hunter's perspective, I think, according to what you're saying, it looks to me like your rifle is sighted in, 2 inches high at 100 yards. And so you put the crosshairs on the bullseye and you're just constantly missing over. It's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong. Point of impact's too high. So hopefully that metaphor makes sense to you, but I think that might be one of the big roots of your issues. Now, another way to test it without getting too long-winded is put a skeet choke in there and see if you're actually chipping the target. Change from that light modified that you said you were using, put a skeet choke in there and see if that helps. That's going to open up your pattern size about twice the size of what the light mod's giving you. You might get a little bit better. You might actually start hitting the target, just not crushing it or smoke balling it. And that would be another indicator that your gun's just shooting a little bit too high. That skeet choke will allow you to use the bottom fringe of your pattern to still pull a piece off the clay, and maybe another indicator. But like I said, I think that the gun is not necessarily sighted in, or the point of impact is off. A way to mitigate that, find a local stock fitter. If not, I would suggest Kohl's in I guess, let's see, you said Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
He's got a store in Maine that might be closest to you. I'm sure there's a stock fitter somewhere in Virginia. If you don't know of one off the hand, seek out a local instructor, and they'll probably know of a good local guy that can help you out. But it sounds like you might need to bring the comb down just a little bit and get your eye sitting flatter on the rib. That's a way to adjust that point of impact down a little bit. If you're hitting too high, your cheekbone is sitting too high above the rib. Move it down a little bit to where you're looking flatter down the rib, and that'll adjust that point of impact for you.
Awesome. Trace, anything you wanted to add to that or ask about that?
Yeah. I think this is kind of a loaded question because I think a lot of people have a different answer to it, but where would you recommend somebody start with a point of impact? Where do you recommend them be? Pretty flat?
I mean, it's going to make more sense to you to have a flat shooting gun. I mean, as a 55% shooter, and you didn't mention taking any lessons from a local instructor. And so without having someone there holding his hand, I think just a flat shooting gun is going to be the easiest. Now, there's some visuals out there to show the correct sight picture for a 60-40 point of impact. And, I'll do my best to describe that. And it's just kind of like if you're driving down a long desert highway and there's a mirror finish on the road, that's kind of, just that slightest degree of upslope, that you would see depending on if he has a mid bead and a front bead on there. If you do have a mid bead and a front bead, it's going to mean that the mid bead is about halfway, 3/4 of the way up on the front bead, depending on the front bead size. Now, I know we're getting kind of long-winded, but that is a big indicator of the sight picture you would see. So 60% of the pellets would be above the bullseye on the pattern board. Does that help, Tracy?
Yeah, it makes sense. Sounds like a little bit more forgiving gun.
Yeah, I mean, a 60-40 is a very popular point of impact reference for a sporting clays gun. A lot of skeet shooters shoot a 50-50 flat gun because their longest shot is 30 yards, right? So trap shooters, they're typically going to shoot a 70-30, a little higher point of impact because their average shot is up and away, and it just allows for more better vision of the clay going up, coming from underneath the barrel, etc. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's a lot of it's personal preference. But one of the things that just really stands out to me is a 55% sporting shooter. I don't know if that is age or ability level. So either which way, I want to kind of be more precise with the answer. And I would say, a local instructor to hold your hand on this process, just to shorten that learning curve. It's one of the easiest and cheapest things to fix. It's just adjusting the stock fit to match the point of impact, and your brain will register that. So you're not having to always compensate to hit a shot that you normally wouldn't miss anyway. You know what I mean? Like a cross or a quartering bird, I feel like I have to miss under a target that I feel like is rising or is flat. It just kind of, pretty trippy on your brain sometimes.
Makes good sense. Thank you.
All right, Cory, we got one more here for you. This person was anonymous. Says, I shoot sustained lead for most targets, but occasionally feel like I have difficulty being on the line while in front of the bird for some presentations like tower shots. George Digweed feels the only way to know you are on the line is to stay with the bird and pull away before the shot. Do you think pull away is the most beneficial when it's difficult to track the line?
It's maybe I'm the wrong guy to answer this one, because I think that it's all just it's all accounted to how your personal brain is wired. I mean, I do agree that if you're running too far in front of the bird, as a sustained lead shooter would, and today's complex target presentations, the target setter's job is to fool you with the line and the speed. So whenever you get that far out, yes, you are going to lose that line. And as he mentioned, George feels the only way to know that you're on the line is to stay with the bird. It means stay closer to the bird, obviously, and then pull away before the shot. Yes, but I think you need to pay close attention on what the presentation's actually doing in the break point before you formulate a plan on what you're going to do. And do I think pull away is most beneficial when it's difficult to track the line? Absolutely. But there's hybrid ways of doing that, to where you could sustain your gap closer to the bird for a certain amount of time that's applicable to that presentation. And then pull away is a common terminology. Let's call it stretch away, to where it's meaning it's a little bit slower. I say this a lot, like if you were to assign a speed number to that target, like what is its, lateral speed between left and right on a scale of 1 to 10. Bill McGuire says a baseline for this understanding is if you're shooting a high house skeet target from station 4, that high house is a number 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, so with that being said, you go back to this hypothetical bird that we're talking about, and that bird is a 3 speed. Okay, well, then that means that as you went to go pull away from there, you wouldn't pull away with your barrel speed being anything faster than a 4. So 3 speed target, 4 speed barrel, meaning a slow, easy pull away, or a stretch away, or a walk away, something like that, right? Now, if you were to apply a swing through method, you're just starting a little bit behind the bird or back edge of the bird, following it, tracking it, kind of matched up with the bird. If he's a 3, your barrel's moving a 3, just working the back side of it. And then once you get your eyes locked in, on the bird, and you're ready to commit to a finishing move, use that terminology, a finishing move, you're just going to slowly at a 4 speed walk that gap out to what you think it's going to be, when you're also walking out on that line that you believe that it's flying, according to working it from the back to where you can see what you think the bird's actually doing. Maintain, you're just kind of, you got to have skill at whichever method you're going to use, but I would say track the bird on your view target, pay close attention to what you believe that target's doing in the break zone, not for what it's doing, from your hold point to the break zone, but what you really believe. A traditional kind of elementary school British method that, is taught, quite a bit is, putting use your fingers in your hands to make a box over there in that zone where you're going to plan on shooting it, and trace that line, what it's going to fly through in that box. That'll kind of tell you, and you can use clock face references. The target's flying from 2 to 8 o'clock. Okay, well, with that being said, that'll give you a better idea on what the line is of the bird. And I do believe, back to the question before I got way off in the weeds, I believe it is easier to work closer to the target before committing to what the finish is, just so you have a better analysis on what the line is going to do on a tricky bent line type shot.
And I guess I'm asking a question. I'm not adding to it. Well, it will be adding to it, however you want to perceive this. But I don't think either one of you coaches will argue with this, is regardless of what method he wants to use to perfect that shot, he's got to go out and practice it, right? I mean, like, that's going to be a training thing, especially if he's changing up his normal method, right?
Yeah, I mean, if his his preferred method is sustained, then yeah, I think starting closer to the bird will apply that sustained deal that he's used to, and then just adding a little bit of pull away at the end will really help him without getting too far off base of what's normal to him. But it's just really important to identify that pull away is not, rip away. It's not jerk away from it. All right. You have to pay close attention to how you drive the barrel and according to what the speed of the target's doing, because otherwise you're not really performing what pull away is. Right. You're just kind of flinching away, or, whatever kind of terminology you want to call. Once you can really drive the barrel according to the target speed and match that through the compounding speed changes, he's fast right off the arm. He's slow over the top, where it's like if we're using a Shondell metaphor, it's fast off the arm, it's slow over the arch, and then it gradually gains speed on the drop. If you can track that and stay with that bird and as an exercise, hold the front edge of that bird the entire flight path without accidentally getting a little, falling behind or jumping ahead. All right, well, now you're driving the barrel pretty good. So the next step would be, can you do all that and then commit to inching out to whatever, size gap or lead you think it might take? Give that a whirl. I think that tracking the bird, especially even dry firing, will help mitigate that, losing the line.
Yeah. Well, Cory, anything did you want to add to that, Tracey?
Yeah, I guess just quickly, you use the term hybrid method, and I feel like this concept is kind of growing. And I don't know if it's growing because of the fact that we've got some really good video of some of the best, Anthony and George and guys like yourself and Brandon. Do you see kind of the growth of this hybrid methodology kind of taking off a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think it's actually been happening for a long time. I mean, just using myself and Anthony as a reference, we were basically raised by Dan Carlisle, and Dan's method. And I just think over time, as the target presentations have gotten more difficult and the machines can throw harder, faster, more complex targets, as everything has improved over time, well, so does the shooter. And I think that we've just figured out, kind of metaphorically able to ride a wheelie on this method and kind of skate over on one wheel on that method, or blend the best of this and that together to create something that works for me or works for us. And so I think it's actually been going on longer than people realize. But I think it's continuing to evolve, similar to that last question. Everybody supposes that Brandon's a swing through shooter. Well, he starts from the back to work through the bird to establish that line. And if you look on some of the shot cam, there's a moment that he's maintained right there at the end. Same thing with George. Now, I don't think anyone's going to stand on the hill and die saying, I'm a this type shooter. It's the same thing like with golf. You're going to have many clubs in your bag. You just got to know how to use each one when the time's right. You're going to have your preferred club to play the majority of the course with, but you got to know how to use them all and how to blend this with that and kind of, metaphorically make the cake taste right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Makes sense.
We won't talk about the cake I've been eating because it's actually humble pie.
Hungry now.
It's humble pie. So. Well, Cory, real quick before we let you go, somebody wants to get a hold of you for lessons. Somebody wants to get a hold of your new app. Tell everybody where to find you, where to find the app.
Check out kruseshooting.com, KRUSE shooting.com. That'll have everything for the app, or you can go to sportingcollective.com and that'll show you how to navigate to it. If you're on the App Store with Apple or Android, just search in the App Store for Sporting Collective. It'll come up, and we've pretty much done all that we can to simplify instructions on how to create a free account. We're not tracking your data or trying to hook you into something. It's pretty plain and simple, cut and dry. It's $15 a month for all the content, access to the community and the live stream. And there's a lot of free content out there if that's not in your budget. So, check it out. And my website's got all my contact information for individual lessons and so on and so forth. So pretty easy to get in touch with.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Cory. Appreciate it, buddy. we'll be getting you back on soon because there's a lot more questions that I have for you. So,
Awesome.
instead of questions for the coaches, it'll be morons for the. Okay. Anyway, but no, I'll get back a hold of you soon, Trace. We'll get you back on here real soon.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cory.
All right.
Thank you.
See you, bud.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
The Dead Pair.
All right, it's been a long hiatus, and he's had plenty of requests. Welcome back to the show, Mr. David Radulovich. What's up, bud?
Well, what's going on, guys? It has been a hiatus.
It has been. He's been hiding from us, Tracy.
Not good.
Well, just so everybody knows, David made us a promise off air. He's not going to go longer than 2 hours per answer. So
Yeah, per answer, though.
per answer. Yeah. Well, David, we've got a ton of questions. Let me get started on the first one. This says, for any high-level shooter or coach, what is the best way to block out other distractions and find your focus on a day when you don't feel in the flow state?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And I mean, as any coach would know, that's probably one of, the most high, probability questions that you're going to get early on with somebody that's coming to you, especially if they're, deeper into the competitive spectrum of things. I would actually really be interested to hear Tracy's opinion on this with his background. But my personal opinion is that really that type of question is not one that you can have a general answer to, because it's highly dependent on the style of personality, attention being like, are you generally based as a more interoceptively aware person or extroceptively aware person? So, like for me, having ADHD, the thing that I'm constantly always having to fight in around is the fact that my brain wants to pay attention to a bunch of things outside of me. I'm highly extroceptive. But if you're comparing somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum of that, somebody who's very interoceptively aware all the time, it's very hard for them to get their attention outside of their own body. And those two things they do require completely different, approaches in terms of how to turn around. Then on top of that, dependent on, how potently placed you are in those different categories of that spectrum, you can essentially get to a state physiologically and emotionally where you're unable to even have the agency to recognize the fact that your attention is on the wrong things. You won't even be able to have the conscious thought of, oh, I have a choice not to pay attention to that thing. That's if you get very far into the, very common psychology would talk about, like, the fight or flight mode response. If you're very far into that, you're going to feel like it's impossible not to hear the golf carts behind you or not to pay attention to the person talking behind you, all these different distractions. And not only will you feel like it's impossible not to pay attention to them, but you'll also not realize that there's even a choice to be made that, oh, I can redirect my attention. Whereas if you have somebody on the other end of the spectrum, that same level of overwhelm can come from the internal flags that are going off, more so like I'm feeling highly anxious or nervous and I can feel the adrenaline in my body, or, I don't have anything like that. And so really a good answer to that question with that prepended context is that the first step along the way in determining how to do the best thing for you is you have to understand how your mind works and what type of things that you struggle with. And then once you determine that, if you can kind of put yourself into a baseline category of, well, this is generally the thing that I have to try to overcome, then you can start trying different approaches. I mean, if you want me to, I'm more than happy to explain like the type of stuff that I have to do. But for me, you can't find you have the perfect coach, quote unquote, to ask about this, because I guarantee you there's not a single person that competes that has to put more work into that very specific thing than me, because of how just analytically based my mind is and how fast that it goes, like in terms of the dialogue that can happen in my head at a conscious level and all the different things I'm paying attention to. And so for someone like me, if I think that the way that I handle that question starts when I notice it happening, when I notice the problem happening, I'm so far late, I can't do anything about it. So, I mean, Jason, you and I have traveled enough together and gone to big shoots together and stayed in the same house together. And you know me, personally outside of competition. I mean, I'm sure you can see the difference. And I bet you that if now that you know, and the next time that we go to a tournament, you'll be able to know when I'm doing this. But for me, about 2 hours before I start the round, that's when I need to start trying to basically prepare to be able to control that by getting myself into a state of mind where I know that my propensity to just like pay attention to all these different things and have a very quick, dialogue in my head and all this distraction, so to speak, I have to pull myself very deliberately into being incredibly interoceptively based. I'll do that that's why I like to bring a guitar with me to every tournament that I go to, because, before I go to shoot, I'll start to play a little bit of music. So I have to pay attention to how it feels in my hands. I like to, which is not something I normally do, like just paying attention to how something feels in your hands or controlling something very deliberately in your body. I'll separate myself from people because I'm very extroverted. So any little interaction that happens, like micro interaction with somebody, will pull my attention outward towards them. I basically am building a wall around myself to prevent it from happening. So that way I don't even have to deal with that question mid-round. There's a million things, but that's the basic concept.
Interesting. Anything, Tracey, to add to that?
I think the biggest thing that I really take from it is really understanding yourself. And I think putting labels on what type of person you are so you can really start identifying your tools. Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? How are you going to react to that? Exterior stimulus. How are you going to handle those things? Put a label on it so you can start developing tools that are going to address those issues.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, of all the podcasts that I've ever done with you guys, I think probably it's safe to be able to assume that if you had to guess what I think is one of the most important things to being able to get good, not just at shooting, but at anything, it would be, putting a huge amount of effort into, understanding yourself, increasing your self-awareness, your emotional awareness, your the physical self-awareness, your visual awareness in terms of like being aware of the different states that your eyes worked at, all these different things. And because I'm on the younger side of the guys that do this professionally and teach, as a main career, but even being 32 years old, I've been doing it. I've been competing, for 25 years, and I've been teaching for about 15 to 17 it's what I do every day. So I have a lot of time behind it, and it's afforded me the ability to, because I started teaching before I had a career already, it just immediately evolved into being my career without anything else. And so what ended up happening was like the saturation of my time as a coach. I didn't have to find the time to teach a little bit when I started off. It was the only thing that I did, and it's always been the only thing that I've done. So the amount of hours that I have doing it has been really valuable to me to learn some really interesting things about, just people in general, which is one of my, I think, really cool. It's one of the reasons why I like psychology so much, because human beings are obviously very interesting, and the spectrum of how different a person can be is infinite. And the more that you teach and the more that you learn to respect that every person is different, and you can start to, get out of the frame of mind that I need to teach everybody the way that I do it. And you start looking at every person as an individual variable of all of these different things, that what you end up doing is realizing, like, before I can give somebody a prescriptive answer to something, I need to understand them. And, the same way that you would want a good doctor, if you go into a doctor and there's something wrong, you want them to ask you questions instead of spending 2 minutes, be like, here's a prescription, go to the pharmacy. It's like, dude, I didn't even tell you what was wrong yet,
Yeah.
And so, like,
Take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
you're like, what, dude? Like, how do you even know, And so it's like, but it's the same way when you're teaching. You have to give that person the respect enough to learn about them and how their mind works and how their personality is, because it's guaranteed not to be like yours. And so if you take that approach, then number one, it's really fun, because you teaching somebody changes from being a one-way direction of communication, where basically you're just like, speaking things and giving people answers to things, to where, okay, now coaching becomes a dialogue, and it becomes a back and forth. And the person that you're teaching has to put the same amount of effort into learning themselves as you do. And you could maybe interpret what I'm about to say as kind of an insult, but I don't mean it that way, because it's not something that many people need to think about or think, it doesn't come up in our lives as being something like, oh, I should focus on this. But the thing that's kind of amazing that I've learned throughout all the years of doing this is, like, most people never go through something in their life that requires them to put attention on themselves in this way. So then when you introduce the fact that, okay, well, you want to learn how to shoot better, well, you need to learn, in a weird way, the way you could explain it is this: you need to learn to be an observer of yourself from a narrative sense, like as if you were somebody that knew you, but you weren't you, and you understood what your habits were and what your, how you thought about things and how you responded to things when you didn't get a chance to think through how you wanted to. You need to know all those things about yourself. So self-awareness in a general sense becomes literally the most important thing. And it's so cool to me to see, number one, how many people don't know or have that skill because they never needed it until they decide to play this stupid game. and then once they do buy into the fact that, okay, yeah, this does seem like it would be an important thing, then that's when the fun starts, because then you start to see, like, they're really enjoying the fact, like, well, I never knew this about myself, or, oh, this is cool. This is so much valuable in other parts of my life too. And it just, like, creates this huge open-ended thing that you can go down that helps you in everything. But absolutely, that's the first step, is that, and I will say, I will have to insert this. It's one of the things that I get for fun criticized about a lot, in that, like, I never directly answer a question, which, but that's a very deliberate thing on my side, because I really truly believe that, like, I'd be doing a disservice if I gave a general answer to a really important question that has not one answer but infinite answers. Because if I just say that, then I'm really actually misinforming people. And because the thing that I do, the thing that I have to do to succeed in the end result of what the question that you just asked me is about, I would bet you that there's less than 5 people that shoot this game that have to do what I do. And I would bet you everybody else, if they did what I did, to some level, it would hurt them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm already a little hurt. No, I'm just kidding.
This is, Tracey, this is why when David had his podcast, it got so many downloads, because people keep downloading, trying to figure out what he just said.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I got just one quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You've had some incredible performances, David, some absolutely epic performances. And from just in regards to you alone, when we talk about like environmental, emotional, what are some things, maybe 2 or 3 things that you have learned you need to duplicate to try and find or to try and help you get to that place of your highest performances?
That's a great question. That question has been I'm using my one word that I can only use one time. It's been the filter for my approach in this game that I try to base everything off of, which is literally, how can I find, like, my goal in essence is like, I want to find a formula that I can reuse that if is basically like a switch I can flip on and then it nets in a good performance. And for the first 23 and a half years of me shooting, I can honestly say that I had the same filter, but I had the wrong perspective. And I was looking for these things that were like, everything I was measuring were things that I would do or eat or sleep or have or schedule, and I was like trying to create some type of repeatable thing that I could do and net in the same result for 23 and a half years. And I literally to a point of neuroticism, like, it kept logs of all the things and all of the theories and all the, like, everything that I was wanting, because I literally was trying to build that. And I would go back and look at them, and there was not one, I can't find one predictable result. And again, I would bet you that there's other people. I mean, I know for a fact there are other people, depending on your type of personality, like that, things in that realm, all of those external things. If you can create consistency in the external environment, there are personality types where that is the perspective that you need to look in or to have to create consistency in the result. For me personally, what I finally realized after so long was that it doesn't matter, and I don't need to pay attention to anything that I do or anything like that. You can throw me in a realm of chaos, and the thing that I have to have is just one thing. I have to have the discipline to stay present-minded in my intensity of basically, actually, it's really about the first question. Have the discipline to put the work in, not to allow my attention to be distracted. And I don't mean that by, like, sounds and noises and people bothering me. I mean, literally, my personality type is the natural version of me. Like, when I just show up, if I'm there at a tournament, not to win, who I am as a person, like, directly hurts what I need to be able to perform well. Like, I want to go talk to people. I want to hang out. I want to stay up late. I want to have fun on the course and shoot the pair backwards. I want to all of these things. And it's not my ability to do or not to do those things is completely determined by the discipline that I have to not allow my, I guess, frame of time that I'm thinking in to wander. And it's the opposite of most people. So, like, my baseline is I'm the most hyper present person that you can meet. which is why I'm late to everything. I run every lesson I ever have way too long. Like, if you want a good bang for your buck, schedule a lesson with me at the end of the day. And because you can pay for an hour and I won't realize it, and 6 hours will go by, and,
I can vouch for this.
I feel like I want to study you, David.
Yeah. Oh no, you do not. You do not. You'll.
I'd love to like hook you up like neurologically and monitor your brain speed at like the next
crazy.
year worth of tournaments and see what we put together. I think that would be really
terrible.
fun to do.
It would peg every meter you have. Trust me.
Yeah.
I never have to charge my Tesla. I just plug it into myself. But the the problem that I have, here's the problem. Everyone talks about, like, in psychology, it's obviously very important in a general sense to be hyper present in the moment and not let your mind wander to the future and worry about losing, or think about winning and have that build pressure, or think about the past and wander on a bad result or something like that. For me, it is the opposite. For me, I have to hold on to the fact that, hey, what I'm doing right now isn't about right now. It's about the end of Sunday night. Because if I don't, I completely forget about where I am and the importance of it. And then that's when my discipline goes away, because none of the things that I have to do to win are the things that I want to do to win. And so if I allow myself to be in the natural state of presence, then I have way too much fun. And the mistakes that I make are not because I don't know how to do it right. It's because I didn't have the discipline to be like, I know this is not going to be fun, or I know this is a lot of work, or, I'm going to be so reactive to the present moment in a good, fun, positive way. Like, I'm never someone that, gets mad or anything. I'm always just enjoying the moment that I'm in. But the problem is that doesn't help me to win, because I'll give in, to the things I want to do instead of the things that I have to do. And so I have to stay focused. I have to consciously and deliberately, and it's so hard for me to just keep reminding myself, like, what the purpose of this is. And so then I have to back that up and before the match, so that I don't just show up there and then think about the tournament. Like, oh, okay, I'm here, because if you leave me to my own devices, I'll forget I'm supposed to leave on Friday because I get so into something that I'm doing. And then it'll be Friday night, like, oh, I got to leave. I'll drive through the night and show up on, 30 minutes before. I'm texting Casey like, hey, I'm going to be late, but sign me up. I'm playing the options, but I can't, I can't see you before I shoot. And that's literally what will happen to me every single time. And so I have to literally, on my calendar, I purposely block times out, not because I need to practice, but because I need to make it to where that I'm building the momentum of the importance to put pressure on myself. So that way, that when it comes down to the final in real time decision of, do I do this, that it's fun, or this that's going to lead to a better result, that I already have so much invested that I've given up, that I don't want to do the thing that's fun, because then it makes everything I already did a waste. And I have to hold on to the future end result that further solidifies my choice to go down the thing that I need to do, if that makes sense. And that's literally the only thing I have to do. And if I do, guaranteed success. If I do that well, I'm not guaranteed to win, but I'm guaranteed to have the best possible performance. And then that's just a matter of how finely tuned my mechanics are in terms of if I win or not. And it's the craziest thing that it took me that long to figure that out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all I can say is wow. Remind me when we're off air, Tracey, to tell you what his psychologist told him. So, all right, David, I got one more for you.
Before the next question, everybody take a bathroom break, get up and walk.
grab your popcorn. Only you can answer this one because he references Behind the Break, which you were part of that show. Tom writes, Andy Duffy and what he called in a Behind the Break podcast several years ago, quote, the kind of recklessness one needs to shoot without letting your conscious brain get in the way. Would still like to hear you guys talk with someone about this issue. And I figured because you were part of that show, you probably know what he's referring to when Andy Duffy said, the kind of recklessness one needs to shoot without letting your conscious brain get in the way.
I've heard Andy describe it as free movement as well.
Yeah. So I don't know if I've heard or was a part of that specific episode, but I mean, I definitely know what's that?
Let me further this, because I think what he's referring to is something that Anthony just alluded to in the episode we did with him not too long ago. He would rather shoot on a nationals course where it's a 75 target course. He would rather shoot a reckless 69 than a careful 73.
I would rather shoot a 73.
Well, you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah. But I know what he's talking about.
That's an awesome statement. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I firmly believe that, and maybe this is because of everything I just explained, and how, to me, I never have consistency in rounds in terms of how they feel like they went to me. But I mean, my scores are always generally very consistent. But if there was some way for people, if there was a scoreboard that somehow showed what it felt like to shoot every round, I would be the guy that's like at the very top one day and then the very bottom the next day, and it's like that all the time. Which would be an interesting thing for people to see. But so like for me, I very easily can recognize the difference between what I in simple terms, I call it what version of me that I have to play to be able to put my highest round up that day. And I generally know that before the round starts. Very rarely am I ever wrong. And if I am wrong, I know it basically after the very first pair. And then basically the whole round is never for me, like what state of mind that I'm in. If you want to put it on a framework of like aggressiveness and recklessness, all the way to like careful and, afraid would, fear is something Anthony always talks about. And, so if you take that and create a spectrum and then you can have a round that goes anywhere from one of the two sides. If you want to call it that, that's fine. For me, what I call that is like, it's a difference between, here's the other word, between how proprioceptively based my shooting is. And because to me, I don't recognize it as fear or recklessness. I recognize it as like consciously deliberate or proprioceptive. Like, am I controlling how I want my body to move, or is it responding in a feedback loop to the information I'm giving my brain through my eyes? That's, for me, how I work that spectrum. On the one side is my eyes are looking at the bird, and I'm doing that well enough with basically zero or very minimal chatter or like bad data that is in my head that's like getting in the way, muddying the waters, so to speak, that it's basically a straight feedback loop between the eyes, the brain, the body, the hands, the gun, the target, back to the eyes. And that just loop is happening in real time. And I'm not even consciously injecting anything in there. And I can recognize when that's happening and I don't get in the way of it. And that's going to be a great round. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you have the days where it's like, for any reason, it can be because of fear. It can be because of a lack of familiarity with the round or the gun or the just, shooting in general, if you haven't had a chance to do it that much, it can be, for me, it can be because of the other balls I'm juggling in my head in terms of things that I have to do. So, for example, like when we go to a tournament and we're trying to, host live interviews at the end, I can be in the middle of a round knowing that I don't even have the time to shake my squad's hand at the end of this by the time that I have to, set up a whole broadcast studio in real time on the fly and worrying about all the things. It can just be anything. Basically, it's anything that is like sticky, so to speak, in your thoughts that don't let that feedback loop happen without being interrupted. And so when that happens, it doesn't allow that process to happen fluidly. And so then what ends up happening is I feel very much in control of, well, if I want to put a good round together in that state of mind, then I have to be very much in control of my body, meaning that I have to very deliberately set my posture and very deliberately be moving my hands in the middle of the shot to get the mount right, be very deliberately controlling my tension, deliberately moving my eyes. On days like that, which are most days, because of all the things that are happening that have to be consciously deliberate, it's like basically in the analogy of a plane or like my car. It's like on those days, I'm actually driving. On the days where the feedback loop is happening, I have it on autopilot and I'm just sitting there and it's doing everything for me. And so, but it doesn't mean that on the days where I'm actually driving that I'm going to drive worse or get there later. I can put a 73 up on a course, whether I'm driving the gun or it's on autopilot. But it just depends on if I am good enough in my level of awareness to recognize what state of mind that I am in. And instead of what most people try to do, which is if they recognize that they're in a state of mind that is not the ideal one, they always try to change it. Well, the reality of it is, I'm sorry, but you can't change it. You can't just, like with the statement that this guy is asking about what Andy Duffy said, what is the, being reckless? You can't just make the conscious choice, oh, I'm being too careful, so I need to be reckless now. You can't do that because not only does the English language not possess the right amount of words to describe what that actually means, because you can't filter it down to recklessness, because recklessness to someone like me means I'm going to shoot it 5 feet off the arm and, and do something stupid and not put preparation into what I'm doing. But what will happen is if you translate that and then you try to force that, then you actually are reckless without any preparation, which makes it even worse. So for me, what I do is I don't try to change the state of mind that I'm in. I accept it. I say, okay, I'm scared today of losing, or okay, I'm, anxious about this other thing and I can't get my mind off of it. I'm not going to try to block it out of my head. I'm going to recognize the state of mind that I'm in. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to understand what that means in terms of my now new limitations and capabilities. And then I'm just going to make sure that I know, like, okay, well, if I'm in the careful side or the fear-based side or whatever you want to call it, well, that means that I'm not going to have as fluid movement. I'm not going to, I know the difference in my eye work. I'm not going to be fluidly having all these like psychotic snaps in my eyes and very efficiently moving from bird to bird and very efficiently picking the bird up in the beginning. My eyes are going to want to jump in the beginning. So I know that that's going to make the, like on a quick quartering bird, I know that's going to make it look faster than it is. So if I know that I am going to perceive it too fast, then I know that if I don't if I let that be without doing anything about it, I'm going to respond too fast. I'm going to get too tense and lose control. So then now part of my planning is, okay, that's how I'm going to see it. I can't change the emotion. I'm not going to try. That's too distracting. I'm going to instead change the approach or the response, because this is a day that I'm more in control of my body deliberately. So I'm going to override the intuitive response, which is like, to be jerky and quick and whippy and reactive. And I'm going to be very deliberate in what I'm doing and override it. And so I'll put the same score up. I'll put a 73 up out of 75, whether it's either of the 2 days. The difference is on the day that I am in the state of mind that Andy Duffy would call reckless, it was really easy. I didn't have to do very much prep work, very much planning, very much rehearsal for every movement that I want. And I can get through the round, and it's basically not exhausting. I feel like on days like that, you can shoot all day at the same level. And then on a day where it would be what Anthony would call fear-based shooting, still put the 73 up, but my God, was it hard work. Like, I worked so hard. I paid attention to every line. I rehearsed every movement that I wanted to have 15 times before I got to shoot every pair. I'm planning way more depth in my approach of I'm literally at the point where I'm planning every single little basic fundamental thing, and then not just planning it, I'm rehearsing it over and over so I know what it feels like, because when I go to do it for score, I have to do it consciously and in control, as opposed to just let it happen. And so days like that, which to me are most days, because I don't get the opportunity to, shoot enough to where it's everything can be just super fluid, and they're way harder work and exhausting. But I will tell you, it's more rewarding to finish a day like that. It's really fun, I think.
Well, it's also an interesting concept because, you take, some coaches want you to train over and over and over again and shoot subconsciously. And then you take a coach like, for example, Ben, he wants you to shoot 100% fully aware of everything you're doing and shoot in a conscious mind, right? Like very deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting because a lot of people try to find that quote unquote zone
Mm-hmm.
and shoot subconscious. And then, you go to somebody like Ben and he's like, no, I want you very aware of everything that you're doing, so it's interesting. I don't know. I can't hit crap anyway. It doesn't matter. So,
The crazy thing is, both things are very easy to do, to be very subconscious in what you're doing and to be very conscious about what you're doing in terms of the shooting. And both of them are incredibly important to be able to do. But the funny thing is that each one of them, most of the time for most people, are impossible or feel impossible, or at best highly elusive for everybody, in the circumstance that you should do each one respectively. So like, when would be the best time to be hyper consciously aware of your movement and deliberately control everything you're doing? Well, easy answer to that question. It's when you're practicing, because that's how you get better. But most of the time, most people, when they go to shoot and practice, it is so hard for them to deliberately control and consciously move their body in a way that's not subconscious, that they don't realize that they're not doing it. They think that they're doing it, but they're not. And that's why that's the difference between somebody that can get really good really fast with very little work versus somebody that's shot 1,000,000 rounds and barely gotten better. Because the person that shot 1,000,000 rounds and barely got any better just went out and shot and did everything by just looking at the bird and shooting, and their break percentage is probably really good and they felt good about every practice but saw no improvement. The other person, complete opposite, very deliberate and consciously controlled, probably felt terrible during their practice because it was all consciously controlled, way scattered across the board in the result, because it's really hard to hit targets consistently when you're consciously moving your body. But they're learning how to do it, and they're overriding the way that the brain sends the signals to, it's called your lower motor neurons, and you're rewriting the signals, the basically how your body moves in response to what you see. And so very, very hard to do in practice. Then in a tournament, we go to a tournament, and what's the best thing to do then? Well, obviously, if proprioceptive shooting is not a method that I teach. It's every single human being uses proprioception every day, all the time. So regardless of method or technique or coach or style, whatever, it doesn't matter. If we want to shoot our best, all of us have to do it proprioceptively. If we want to shoot our best, the easiest. So that would be non-conscious. Well, what's the hardest thing to do when we're shooting? Be conscious, because we want to be careful and control everything. And so it's funny to me, because the way that we should be shooting in practice is how most people do it in the tournament, and vice versa.
Yeah. Trace, are you able to digest all that over there?
I'm still digesting. I don't know what the hell I just said, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot. There's a big discussion there. That's for sure. That can certainly go a long ways. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, David, you've ran long enough, and since you used proprioception 4 times when you promised you only
dang
use
it,
it
yeah,
once.
I did. Well, in my head, it was all encapsulated into one.
That's always in your head. Yes, I understand that. So, but since you ran long, you're going to stick around and wrap up the show with us.
Sure.
David, Tracey, thank you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Like I said, check out the new sponsors. All their links are in the show description and up on the website. Make sure you get some of that new Dead Pair swag. That link is up on the website now too.
I want to say, I've seen it. I don't know if people are listening to this, they probably won't be able to see it, but I saw it. Jason sent me some things. There's you got some cool stuff. I really like that one shirt with the crazy pattern on it. It reminds me of my vest. So I would recommend everybody go buy that.
Well, David's bias. He likes that because he helped create that pattern. That's the Scoops logo.
Well, I liked it before I even realized what that was.
Oh, well, see, I guess I did something right. But message is still the same. It's been the same for going on 6 years now. Take someone who's shooting, take them to a tournament. Tracey, we're getting you back again probably next week. If the big man can't get here, he's supposed to be here next week. So, David, thank you. We've got a lot more we want to talk about, so we're going to get David and Tracey back on for another full episode here soon. But in the meantime, we can't wait to see y'all back here on the Dead Pair Podcast.
We'll see you next time on the Dead Pair Podcast.
The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Kolar Arms, the mark of performance, and is fueled by Fiocchi USA. The Dead Pair theme song was written, arranged, and produced by Toby Tomplay. Special thanks to the following sponsors: Atlas Traps, Ranger Performance Eyewear, Rhino Chokes, Long Range LLC, Gun and Trophy Insurance, Taconic Distillery, Score Chaser, and Clay Range Design Works.